Hello, everyone. This is Sadhana Alangar, HL7's Director of Education. Welcome to the Understanding the HL7 International Organization and Orientation to Working Group Meetings, Process and Governance webinar. Your speakers are Virginia Lorenzi and Saele. Saele is the chair of HL7 Norway. She is an affiliate director and a member of the HL7 board. She is the co-chair of the International Council, board member of HL7 Europe, and also the co-chair of the Patient Administrative Work Group. Virginia Lorenzi is the secretary and of the HL7 board, co-chair of the Patient Empowerment Work Group, and she's a member of the Education Advisory Council and Policy Advisory Council and the Executive Committee, and she also teaches for HL7 International. At this time, I'm going to hand over the program to Line. Hi, Line.
Thank you. What we want to put in our agenda for us today is that we will explain our vision and mission. We will also explain a little bit about the organization and the governance of our organization. And we will also review a little bit of our history. We will try to describe the work groups and how they actually function, and all our processes, at least some of them, because we wouldn't have time for every one of them. We will also describe what we are going to participate in the working group meeting. And we will try to help you a little bit on the way to plan your working group meeting next week. And last but not least, get your questions answered. So reminding you all to just write them down if you just remember them on the fly. And we will also have a question and answer at the end. Next slide, please. So I keep saying that we should have like a drum roll or like music for this slide, but still haven't got it 2 years later. But our vision is a world in which everyone can securely access and use the right health data when and where they need it. Very nice. Next slide. And we have our mission. HL7 empowers global health data interoperability by developing standards and enabling their adoption and implementation. So basically, what are we? We are what you call an SDO, Standards Development Organization. Basically, we are very open and consensus-based. We try and strive to get people to agree on the changes that we do to our standards. We are also volunteer-driven. And to be volunteer-driven, I think most of you might have felt what that means already. It means that basically your employer are paying the time that you use towards HL7 work. We also have a few links here. This is one of the first one, and you will get this slides. So if you want to read even more, this is the links that you can use for later reference. Next slide, please. So I've had this discussion for many, many times lately, actually. The word of using the word standard is basically very misused in many areas, because people tend to use whatever is used by several people. It's a standard. But to be called a standard, it's supposed to be an approved document by an accredited organization. Like, for instance, HL7 is approved by ANSI. So all our process in order to get to our standards, we have to be approved by ANSI for actually being able to call ourselves a standard. So that means that whenever you feel that our processes are very slow, that's because we are a standard and we have those processes that we need to follow in order to actually be able to be called an approved standard. Thank you. Next slide. So who participates in HL7, or what we used to say, who are you? So we actually have a lot of people coming into HL7, not only clinicians, not only IT people, we have them all. We have vendors and manufacturers. We have a lot of consultants coming in. We have healthcare providers and healthcare users. We really need the patients as well to coming in and advocate their cases. Virginia would love to tell you more about that, right? And we also have government agency, universities, we have payers, we have pharmaceutical and third-party administrator, which I'm not quite sure we use everywhere, but yeah. So yes, we are represented across very many different sectors actually coming into HL7 in order to get the standards to be as good as it could be. Next slide, please. So, for instance, HL7 Norway, which I'm chairing, is an affiliate organization. Our job is actually to be the representative within our country or territory at HL7 International. So basically, I do all the work with HL7 within my country, HL7 Norway, together with my board and the rest of HL7 Norway. So we also participate in governing the HL7. So we have the International Council where we all sit together and discuss cases across the international world. We participate just as everyone else in the standards development, and our job is to promote and train the use of HL7 standards within our territories. We foster also local communities, and not so much on FHIR, but we do translate and localize the HL7 specifications. Mostly now we do localization of the profiles for HL7 FHIR. Next slide, please. And we do have two nice slides here. Let's just enjoy the first one with our international affiliates. I think we should be presented well. Not sure if the regions are presented by any way yet, because now we also have regions that have gone together to create something like an affiliate, but they work together because they are too small in one country to be an affiliate, and they don't have enough people to join in. So they've gone together with neighboring countries to create a region-based affiliate. And so those are not represented here, but we will try to do that in the next working group meeting. Nice. We have to remember that, Mel. So, and over to Virginia on how we are governed.
Hi, everyone. So let's talk about how HL7 is governed. So this is our high-level HL7 organizational chart. We have our board of directors, and we also have our executives. So we have our chief executive officer, our chief standards development officer, our chief standards implementation officer, and we also have a deputy chief standards implementation officer, and our executive administrative director. So those are all of those executives on staff, and then the staff report up to them. And then our kind of reporting to the board of directors, there's the executive committee of the officers, there's the finance committee, we have our international council, which Line described. We have an advisory council, which advises the board. And then we have the technical steering committee, and this is the committee that leads the standards development process with the volunteers of HL7. HL7 is composed of a whole bunch of work groups, and those work groups kind of work together to develop all the standards of HL7. And the board's focus is strategic. So here are some of the committees and councils of the board, all with a strategic focus. And then I mentioned before, the TSC, the Technical Steering Committee, is our technical leadership for the organization. And it has some related governance groups, such as our U.S. Realm Steering Committee, our product and service management groups. This is where products such as HL7 Fire or HL7 V2 or terminology, that's like overall governance leadership there. I mentioned before our executive leadership. This shows you some nice pictures of them. Some of them are a little outdated, but there's our pictures. And then the people who are behind the scenes really helping to make, HL7 work are the HL7 staff. And we have pictures of the staff here. You can always get an up-to-date list of all the staff by looking at our website at that link. Several of our staff are on this call today, like Sadhana, our Director of Education, and also our Director of Marketing is here. So do I have that right? Did I get that right? Are you guys confused? Okay. But you will find as you participate in HL7 and you come to the working group, at our staff table, you'll meet a lot of the staff. And as you get active in HL7, you will find how incredibly important each one of these staff people are. And you'll learn over time that, oh, that's the person that will help me with my confluence problem. That's the person who really understands how balloting works. That person really understands, how I'm thinking the other, how our process works. So each person has different roles and they're very useful. They're a really important part of the HL7 family. We also have related organizations called accelerators. And these are communities and collaborative groups across the global healthcare spectrum that are working within HL7 to create and adopt fire implementation guides in focused areas. And I'm not sure if that is every one of our accelerators on there, but there's a whole bunch of our accelerators listed there. And just to give you an example, the Gravity Project focuses in the social determinants of health space, creating implementation guides in that space. This is back to you.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a small slide of a little bit of the history that we do have. So let's just jump right into it. I get a lot of questions about version 1 because no one, where is it? Does it exist? Most of you have heard about version 2 coming in and have probably used some 2.7 or whatever you're using, but we did have a version 1. The first meeting of HL7 was back in 1987, so we do have quite a lot of history. And yes, we did have a version 1, but that was quickly replaced by version 2 coming in 1989. So in the following years, we kind of made new version of the version 2 standards. But from 1999 and a few years, several other standards was also created, like CCAO, Clinical Context Working Group.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And also the Clinical Document Architecture coming in 2001, and also Art and Syntax in 1999. And then we started developing the big reference information model for version 3 back in 2004, and developed that throughout the years. We were told that the version 3 might be hard to implement, and we were looking at something new, something could give us the right push to get to more use of our standards. So the first draft of FIRE came in 2012. So I've actually heard people saying, oh, but FIRE is so new. but it's not new anymore. So we now went to normative back in, that was, I'm not sure if the lines are correct here, 2015, 16. And we now have fire versus release 5 coming out probably next year. And we will continue to work on it throughout the years. So I also get the question, but shouldn't it be like done? We now have a standards, but as you all know, things happen and the world keep developing, and so does actually standards. So we cannot not improve. We need to continue to improve our standards, just as the world will continue to improve. And over to you again, Virginia.
Lena, I just want to mention, when you see on the slide that here it says fire R4, and when it just says R4, that's when we went normative, which is an ANSI term, so that
all the
other ones were draft.
I was completely out of, thank you. I was looking at normative for version 3, and that was 2015. That's why I couldn't understand the numbers.
Yeah.
So, sorry, even I can mix up the dates. So yes, it was actually in 2018 we went to normative R4.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so let's talk about how we develop standards at HL7. First, we have some guiding principles in our community. We have a code of conduct. So our code of conduct, it just is a covenant that we all agree to on how we're going to work together. So we can be welcoming and provide a pathway to understand and effectively engage with all our communities. We also, which makes it kind of fun, really, is we are made up of a lot of organizations that in the real world compete with each other. But in our HL7 world, we have an antitrust policy. So instead we are working together. So it's important that we make sure that we are, that we are recognizing antitrust laws and that we continue to promote fairness in competition. Our current standards work, which Lena alluded to, is we actually have 3 different product lines that we are currently working on. Although, one of these is the one that we spend most of our time on, and the other 2 we are maintaining. So fire, that is the one we spend most of our time on, but we are still maintaining CDA and version 2. And in addition, we have other standards, our EHR functional model, Arden syntax, B3 messaging, etc. All work is organized in projects. So every project in HL7 starts with something called a project proposal. And that is just this small little form you fill out that proposes a new project idea. That way we can socialize it, see who's interested in working on it, and then move forward to our project scope statement, which, just like in business, you might be familiar with this concept. This is basically our project approval document, where we find out which work group is going to be sponsoring a project, are there co-sponsors, and how what a high-level timeline, etc. So we talked a bit there about initiating a project. So after you initiate a project, you work on it, and it's usually you're working on developing a standard or an implementation guide, or it could be something else, like you could be doing a white paper. There are multiple things you can develop through HL7. And then, but you're usually preparing some document for ballot. So then you get to the point where you are ready for ballot, and then you would put the document into our ballot process. And this is where the membership of HL7 gets to review the document and vote on it. So they can vote and basically providing comments, saying, you know, this is an area I don't agree with. This is how I suggest to improve it. I like this over here. Maybe this is a suggestion to make it even better. And then there is a process called ballot reconciliation when the ballot closes, when the working group responsible for the ballot will work to look at all of the comments received and reconcile them so that we end up with a better document. If you pass the ballot, then reconciliation will still happen, but you're going to be moving towards publication. If you fail the ballot, you will be doing reconciliation and then bring it back for a second ballot. This is how we have done standards development for years, and what we did for version 2 and version 3 and CDA. But in the fire process, we have added in a new concept, which is called connectathons. So with a connectathon, before you can even go to ballot, you participate in a connectathon, which means we actually develop code and test code and make sure we can connect, do interoperability actually with, you know, clients and servers that we've developed across the community. Make sure that it actually, we've tested out the concept before we go to ballot. This is, you know, really bringing agile methodology into our standards development process. And you will see next week on the weekend, we have our connectathon. So that you will see people testing out specs that are working towards moving towards that ballot process. And I think I got it all here. Yeah. Our work is done in work groups. And work groups are responsible for developing and maintaining the standards. They also develop and maintain implementation guides. And there are many work groups covering the spectrum of the healthcare space. And all work groups are open to participation. You can find the work groups right on our Confluence site. So hl7.confluence.org. This is really the home site that us HL7 volunteers go to. This is where we can find sort of all the information we need. We do all of our documentation of different things like our minutes, et cetera. And Lena will tell you more about that. And you'll see if you go to the site, you'll see a whole bunch of work groups listed. And here you'll see all the different work groups where work is done with HL7. You'll also see other groups on this page, like our accelerators and our management groups and committees. This is my part, right, Lena? Okay, make sure I didn't step on you there. Okay. And a little bit more about work groups. Every work group has a mission and a charter. You know, you heard Lena do our HL7 mission, which I always love hearing her do, our vision and our mission. But each individual work group has its own mission and its own charter. It has leadership. These are co-chairs and facilitators. And these are also really great people to reach out to. You will find their contact information on every work group site. And even when you go to the working group meeting next week, you will see people walking around with badges and maybe a bunch of, what do we call those? Tags on them, ribbons. Yeah, thank you. And the ribbons, not just to add beautiful color to our badges, they tell you different roles that people play. And you can see if someone has a co-chair on there, you know, that is a good person to approach and ask any kind of question. You know, you can find out what they're doing, but they probably will be able to be good at connecting you to people. You know, probably anyone with a bunch of ribbons on might be able to connect you with people. And then we have our membership, and our membership is in a work group is actually defined not by the HL7 membership, but by active participation and listserv subscription in the work group. So people can participate in a work group without being an HL7 member. We're kind of open participation. But then, but by becoming a member, it opens doors to balloting and, discounts, and you are really supporting the mission of HL7. We have formal decision-making processes. These are really important because this is how we can get true formal consensus-based standards with appropriate rigor that was described. Lena was saying why, all these people running around saying they're a standard, but these processes are how we're really able to develop, really well thought out standards. These are based on the HL7 bylaws, the HL7 governance and operations manual, which we affectionately call the GOM. And I guess the other one, because we have all these acronyms, you'll hear if you come to the working group meeting, we're working on our DMP, that's the decision-making processes, or what does the GOM say? These are some of our acronyms. And we also follow if each work group has decision-making processes, but they basically follow Robert's Rules of Order, and Robert's Rules of Order always are key within our meetings. Work groups work at the working group meeting, the triannual working group meeting. And when I first started in HL7, that's all we had. We would meet 3 times a year. And then we invented this concept of weekly conference calls. I think it was when we started having conference technology. So I'm a bit old here. But we have weekly conference calls of our main working group meeting. But we don't just have that. There are all these projects having calls. There are plenty of HL7 calls every week. If you're feeling lonely, you just go on to our conference call site and you will find plenty of things to occupy your time and many great people to meet. We also work through our Connect-a-thon participation. We learn a tremendous amount there. We have joint meetings. We have joint meetings, especially at the working group meeting, where several working groups will come together and meet. And then the meeting times, agendas, and minutes all are on Confluence. So you can always find out what working group is doing, what they're up to. Really, really useful. It's very transparent. And I mentioned, and then between those meetings, again, you can check Confluence. You can look at chat.fire.org, which is where our fire chat is. A lot of really useful stuff happens there. We do have list servers for every working group. And then we sometimes do e-votes, electronic votes between meetings. And by that, I mean between conference calls. Now I'm going to pass it back to you, Lena, so you can tell them about it for patient administration.
Thank you. And I have to say, someone was very observative on our slides here, because we have written the link to Confluence wrong on one of our slides. So it said HL7confluence.org, but it's actually confluence.hl7.org. So that's the correct way of putting it. I'm not sure why we have not seen that before. So great quad on that one, and thank you for letting us know. So we will fix that to the next time. So as I said at the start, I'm the co-chair of patient administration, together with 3 other people, Brian, Cooper, and Reinhardt. And this is our page. We like to call ourselves a team, not just the co-chairs, but all of us coming into the work group. And we also we used to have a coffee maker, but that kind of broke down, so we don't have coffee anymore. Sorry. But we do always have chocolate. So if you want to come to a very friendly group with chocolate from both Norway and also sometimes from Australia, you should come and meet us in patient administration. So yeah, we are trying to bribe you to come to patient administration. But it's a very nice place for you guys to start. Most of you know about patient location, scheduling, the more easy stuff. But still, we have a lot of work to do in our work group. So this is our Confluence page. As you can see here on the sidebar, We have our decision-making practices, which Virginia told you about. We also try to maintain our 3-year plan. But as I was saying at the beginning, things change. We work agile, and agile 3 years ahead is quite hard. But we try. We try to keep a little bit ahead of time. What are we going to work on? We also have SWOT, action items, and all the minutes and agendas. So you will be able to follow the work that we do within our group. And you also will see how to contact us in any way. So if you have any need to reach out to me or Virginia or anyone else, we should be available for you to reach out to us. Next slide, please. We also use chat.fire.org to collaborate. Sulip or chat.fire.org is a great way to just ask questions. We have a lot of streams there, and you can find whatever you're looking for. If you can just ask the question, if you look, you might find the answer has been asked before. But if you don't want to look, ask it again. No one will actually address you. They might link you, but basically you will get help using chat.fire.org. So this is one of our communities example that extends from HL7 and then are now used widely throughout the year. It's not something we only do during the working group meeting, but also whenever you need an answer, you can ask here and find answer to whatever you need. Next slide. So Virginia told you a little bit about the ballots. All members in HL7 can participate in ballots, and non-members can too, but that's where we put in a little bit of fee in order to encourage you all to become members. This is your chance to review and comment and impact proposed standards. So if you are participating in ballots, you will actually impact the standards that we have out for ballots. We have ballots 3 times a year, about a month before each working group meeting. That's because we do all the ballot reconciliation on the working group meetings. Because we need to be intense on that work, because as Virginia said, there are very rarely just one comment. It might be hundreds. And we might have to do it in the conference call later. So next slide, please. And for balloting, we're now using Jira. This is a very update from what we had before. We used Excel sheets. So using Jira is giving us a better overview of our ballots. So if you want to go and join the ballot, you should try to go into Confluence or directly into Jira. There is a link on Confluence to Jira, of course. And it should also be one user at the same places. So if you go from Confluence, you should be able to go into Jira. Next slide, please. We have tried to put everything on that you need to know about HL7 on one page. We call it HL7 Essentials. So this is the page where you can just kind of go into it and try to find all the information that you need. So you have a lot of quick links, and then you have some about HL7 Fire, some of the accelerator programs, and also about how to manage the HL7 work groups. So everything should be on that page. And if you, by some reason, do think that we are missing something on this page, please tell us, because we really want to have this as a good way of starting to find the essential information about HL7. Next slide, please. And I think it's next slide. So next week, we are all going to the working group meeting. This is where we meet and actually join in and have an intensive week of standard development work. We have one in the fall, which is now, and we have also one in January in the winter. And that is now normally a virtual meeting. And then we have one in spring, in May. Hopefully I will see more of you guys coming in May, because that's in Madrid next year. Next slide. What do we do at a working group meeting? So this working group meeting, I think we should mention that it's a working group meeting plus, which means that you will have an extra day, 1.5 days actually, with a lot of presentation. So you will actually see the presentation, how we can use it, and how everyone is talking about the standards. It's going to be a great start of the week, and I hope you all will join in on those presentations, because you will learn a lot on those presentations. But for the rest of the week, the working group meetings will sit in different rooms discussing the project scope statements that we need to build in order to have a new project. We will, of course, work on the ballot reconciliation. We will review and act on comments on most recent ballots. We will collaborate with other work groups. As Virginia said, it's joint meetings, sitting together, because sometimes problems go across the different work groups. So we need to sit together to be able to agree on changes that are affecting several work groups. We also look at logistics and strategy. We make sure our mission charter and decision-making practices and the SWOT and the 3-year plan is up to date. So it might sound a little bit more on the administrative side, and yes, it is, but it's also going to those quarter, give you a very good overview of what the working group is working on. Next slide, please. And I believe that's that. Oh, I have one more. We have like this traditionally in-person meeting, because this is something that we had to address after we started having virtual meetings during the pandemic. Now we have actually kept one of the working group meeting as a virtual meeting, because we saw that not everyone can travel to the working group meetings, and it would be nice to have one working group meeting a year as a virtual meeting. But normally we meet, and we meet Sunday through Friday, and we have general session each morning, kind of addressing things, having good presentations from the leadership and also from other councils, and all the accelerators come and present. So being at the general session is a good thing. It's not just boring information, it's also a very important presentation that you should participate in. We've said so many times that we meet during these working group meetings, so I hope you got that. And we also have the joint meetings, another go in that one. We divide our day into quarters, 4 quarters, but we also have the Q5 or Q6 for the very working groups that need more time. And we have breakfast as well, a light breakfast in the morning. And we also have coffee and tea breaks in between. And then, of course, the lunch break. We also have a planned social event. I think that's Wednesday this time. So I would recommend you all to go to the social event, because that's where you can meet and talk to people. And also in the breaks, it's a great way to meet people. We do have the plenary working group meeting once a year. That's now. So the working group meeting plus with all the presentations are an extensive way of having the plenary, because we used to have like just the beginning of the day, the first 2 quarters as presentations, but we decided to do that a little bit more, to having more presentation coming in, and making it even better for first timer to see how HL7 is in use across the globe. As I've said, virtual meeting in January. And during the working group meetings, you should have a lot of educational opportunities, educational sessions that you can participate in. And Sadhana would be love to help you on those if you have any questions on those. We do also have the Connectathon. That's just before the working group meeting on Saturday and Sunday. Not Friday, right?
Not Friday.
Saturday and Sunday. Okay, next slide. Okay. Is this mine or is it yours? Not sure.
Do you want me to do it?
I can do it. I think the next one is yours. Okay. So we have 1 hour and 15 minutes networking lunch. So if you join the lunch, sit together with everyone else, try to find someone new and just sit beside them. They would not mind at all. I can promise you, we will be very inclusive and everyone will love to have a first timer. You will get a pink ribbon as a first timer. If you don't get them, ask where you get the badge if you can have one, because those pink ribbons make people extra nice to you and they would love to have you sit down and talk with you during lunch or breaks. So we do also have the cookie breaks in the afternoon, and that's very important to us because we try to actually put something else than cookies in between these breaks, and that has not been very successful because people tend to ask, where are my cookies? Everyone wants the cookies. So we have a cookie break in the afternoon. And I mentioned the social event, it's Wednesday, and then there is timing as well, 5:15 to 7:30 p.m. We also have some meetups, so please check the bulletin board or Hoover for meetups. So you will be able to join in on several different things if you have the energy for it at the end of the day or very early in the day. And sometimes it's in between. So keep on and look at Hoover and also the boards that we have in Atlanta. Hoover is a very good place to start. It's our digital way of having all the agendas, everything, no, not the agenda, but more like communication. We have the icebreakers, we have a way to message everyone. So if anyone have any questions for me, Virginia, or anyone else, you can use Hoover. It's a way where we can communicate together with everyone at the working group meeting. It's also a place where you can advertise if you have some articles that you want to share with others. We also share some pictures and having fun across the community. So as we state at the end, it's important that you participate in all these events because it will bring you a little bit closer to the community, and we will love to see you there. And now, Virginia.
Okay, so what Lena mentioned is Hoover. So Hoover is a software that we use to help you navigate the event, and it's really a great piece of software, I have to say. And there's a web interface as well as an app. You know, both are useful, and this is a really nice way for you to plan your event. So you download it, you can see the agenda, but you can create your own agenda using it. You can actually download calendar invites, so you can get your regular calendar, whatever calendar tool you use. So you can have everything sort of lined up and together, because it can be a bit overwhelming being in a meeting and not sure what room you're supposed to be in. So we strongly recommend you use the app to plan your agenda. The other thing in planning your meeting, again, feel free to talk to people. Like if you're not completely sure what you want to do, This is those when you're at the cookie break, or you're at lunch, or you talk to the staff table, ask people, tell them, I'm really interested in this. Do you know where I'd go for that? And people will help you and tell you, well, why don't you go here? And it's very, very helpful. I know when I first started in HL7, people were really helpful in guiding me into what I might be interested in. There's also, this is not correct, actually, I don't think. Sadhna, do we have a newcomers tour?
Yes, we do.
When?
We have it on Tuesday, Q3.
Okay, so Tuesday, Q3, sorry about that. We have a newcomers tour of HL7. And the reason why we have Monday in this slide is that's when we would typically have it, but we're having it on Tuesday, Q3, because we're starting out with this great WGM Plus, where we're looking at, AI and how that affects interoperability. And we have all sorts of innovators that have put in proposals that are presenting. So we have those first 3 quarters, as Lene said, where the whole community is coming together. And I'm sure they're going to be very interactive, because our volunteer community is very interactive. So that'll be very interesting. But then, as a newcomer, you have a session just for you on Tuesday, Q2, where you kind of get a newcomer's tour of HL7. Then, again, we should have updated this. Then after that, there are education sessions going through Thursday that are free education offerings that you can find on Whova, that you can participate in. I would also encourage you, if to consider at least spending a quarter in a working group meeting session. And Lena mentioned that sometimes we tend to meet at quarters beyond Q1 to Q4. And at this working group meeting, I would especially suggest you look at Monday Q5. We don't usually have meetings Monday Q5 as much, but because we have such a jam-packed agenda with this special WGM Plus, there are working groups that will be meeting on Monday Q5, and that might be a way that you get a taste of a working group meeting. But there are also, other working group quarters on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday that you can participate in. Also, as newcomers to HL7, you are assigned a mentor. So please use that mentor, reach out to them, try to make sure that you meet up with them at the working group meeting. These are seasoned HL7ers who, really want to welcome you into HL7, but you also find, like, informally, there are a lot of mentors in HL7. And even if you see mentor on someone's badge, feel free to ask them whatever question, but anyone, just ask. We're a very interoperable group. We're very friendly. And then at our lunch tables, we have first-timer lunch tables, so you can sit with a seasoned HL7er as well. And San, I just want to check I got that right? Did I cover our free education sessions correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, good. Oh, we also have Q0, and Q0 starts at 7 in the morning. It is before our general session. And sometimes there are things at Q0 as well. I will tell you that is my least favorite quarter because I am a bit of a night owl. So here is an example of where you would select your working group meeting of interest. You can, when you click on there, you will see the agenda for the whole week for patient administration. You'll see that some meetings are joint meetings. That's where you'll see that on here. Do we have an example? You'll see typically you'd see all the working groups that are meeting together when it's a joint meeting. And the agenda will explain more specifically what we are talking about at that working group meeting. Lene mentioned that I'm also a co-chair of a work group, and I would love to have you come to visit us in patient empowerment as well. So you select those meetings you're interested in, add them to your agenda. At these meetings, we're not going to have sessions recorded. But at a virtual meeting, we would have sessions recorded. And we are having a virtual meeting coming up in January, where some sessions might be recorded. And we basically do the same thing we do in person, except that everything is virtual. So we use Zoom, we use Whova, And we do things like virtual cookie breaks. It's not quite the same thing, but our staff are pretty good at still keeping our community engaged. And one of the reasons why we're doing virtual meetings is to be really supportive of people who cannot make it to in-person meetings. And that is part of, the fact that we are international. So kind of respectful. In January in particular is summer for those people in the Southern Hemisphere. It's right in the middle of their summer vacation a lot of times. And we also have, and it's just a lot of travel costs. And for people in my work group, the patient advocates, sometimes there are a lot of caregivers and patients that might be in that place, and traveling is more difficult. And it also saves a little bit of money for everyone. But there's something really wonderful about being at an in-person meeting. You will see when we have cookie breaks and we have our lunch breaks, how much work we actually get done during that time as well. So again, general session, 8 a.m., very useful. More stuff we did not update. So this is all on Eastern time zone, not Central. So we have general sessions at 8 a.m. We have our morning break at 10:30. We have cookies at 3 p.m. And just so you know, while we always have cookies, we also have other options like fruit. There's some other options that are out there as well, just in case someone there is not a cookie fan. But I'll tell you, if you're a cookie fan, get there and get your cookies, because they're very popular, especially like when they're warm. And then we sometimes have birds of a feather. I'm not sure when the birds of a feather are at this session. I would look on the count on the Whova for when our birds of the feather are. These are kind of more informal meetings that are informational, maybe like informal discussions. Our network reception is always on Wednesday at 5:15 in whatever time zone our meeting is being held at, and this one is in Eastern. And you can look for both these kind of general sessions and social tracks on Whova. And I do encourage people to post the community in Whova. There are people that I have met on Whova first, and then I run into you at the working group meeting. It's quite great. I'm like, oh, you're that person who posted that funny joke. It's pretty fun as well as serious in some of the conversations on Whova, but a lot of fun there. And also helpful, like sometimes like, hey, here's a good restaurant if you want to go to, things like that. I feel like I just went backwards. Yeah. Besides the educational opportunities at the working group meeting, which really is just a taste of the education that HL7 offers, we have a much more fulsome education calendar that you can find on our website. There's all different kinds of education available at HL7. We have a full library of on-demand online training. We have live webinars. We have our asynchronous courses that span like 12 weeks or 8 weeks. And we have a lot of education that can prepare you for certification. HL7 offers numerous certifications, and in particular, for fire, our certification program has become much more sophisticated. We now offer a fire foundational certification as well as a fire expert certification that we're just rolling out. So in these classes and participation and just working in the field will really help you prepare for these certifications. So you can learn more about training here, and we also have certification information on the website. And that is our exciting conclusion. So in summary, we reviewed HL7's international mission and vision. We described how HL7 is organized and how we accomplish our work. We explained the role and operations of our work groups. We summarized our key HL7 processes. We explained the purpose and format of the working groups meetings. We described how to plan your September 2025 working group meeting. I'm really excited to see some of you there, hopefully all of you there. And that is our summary of our webinar today. And now is the time for questions. And while we kind of get started on questions, just want to ask Sadhana, do we have a minute afterwards that we could clean up those slides and resend them to everyone? Because I see that we have a few typos at the end there.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Later, I'll send it to.
Sometimes because we have the normal times, we forgot the working group meeting plus times because that's changed. I want to address one thing that's repetitive on the questions. Whova, signing up for Whova requires you to use the same email address that you used for registered when you registered to the working group meeting. I'm not sure if there is any other way of connecting if you're signed up for Whova on your other emails, because then you need a code. Not sure if Mel or Sadhana has any idea if we have possibility to give that code.
So yes, there should not be a reason to use a code if you are registered for the event.
No, but if you
were
use
exactly
a private
right.
email for Whova.
Yep, so you just want to use the same email address you registered for, or if you registered just recently, say this morning or something, you may not have been uploaded to Whova yet. But that would be the only two scenarios. And if you are continuing to have issues, you can email meetings@hl7.org and I'll pop that into the chat.
Yeah, do that because I think everyone should have that email address. So if they have any issues to coming into Whova. And other questions that we have, anyone who wants to ask anything can unmute and ask if they want to do it that way. And if anyone has any problems contacting their mentor or just have questions that they just want to ask us in after this meeting, I think I'm one of those you will find in every social media available. Sorry, that sounded gross, but that's true. I mean, I'm at Discord, I'm Snap, Messenger, WhatsApp, Whova, Zoom, whatever. I'm everywhere. So Skype I even have, and I have Signal. So yeah, very available if anyone needs to contact me. And other than that, I saw some invitation on top. I'm not sure if that was me or Virginia, but we were invited to UW Security and Identity Match. So if you want to invite us to anything, just send us an email or ask us on Whova and we will see what we can do. And Gabrielle, thank you for making a course on fire in Brazil. So I think you need to contact Sadhana on that one to be certified on that one. So contact Sadhana and she will help you. That would be correct, right, Sadhana?
Yes, Gabriel, we can talk offline about it.
Okay, I see no more questions. If anyone has anything more that we have not addressed, please speak up or ask me on Whova or anywhere else.
Lina and Virginia, thank you so much for this very informative presentation. And I would also like to thank our education manager, Melinda Stewart, who's been standing by and helping me. And thanks everyone for joining us today, all four of us. That is Lina, Virginia, Melinda Stewart and I, we will be at the working group meeting. Please come and, so those of you who are attending the working group meeting, please come and say hello to us. And till we meet again, everyone, thanks. Bye, everyone. And at this time, I'm going to pause the recording. If you want to ask questions without being recorded, please stay back.